Hello, I'm Rabbi Dorff. I'm a professor of philosophy at the University of Judaism in Los Angeles. I'm sorry I cannot be with you this morning, but it is the Jewish Sabbath, which I observe and consequently cannot be with you. But at least through this electronic medium, I can be with you in this way. I am also a vice president of the Center for the Academy for Jewish, Christian, and Islamic Studies at UCLA. And I've been part of the Jewish, Christian, and Muslim dialogue for at least 10 to 12 years. And so this is another way in which I hope to participate in your discussions. The topic for today, namely the laws of rebit, the laws of interest, begin in the Jewish tradition in the Torah itself, where we are told that we are not allowed to oppress each other, and that one of the forms of oppression that we are not allowed to do is to charge interest to someone else in a loan. In the Torah, it's actually, the word for this is neshech, which actually means like taking a bite out of a person, because the understanding was that if you charged interest to someone else, that's effectively what you were doing. You were taking something from that person which was not proper. The Mishnaic Hebrew term for this is rebit, very similar, I understand, to the Arabic word for it, and it means taking interest, which we are not allowed to do. In the agricultural society in which the Torah was written, this was apparently fairly easy to understand. But in the more economic society, in the more monetary society in which the rabbis live, I'm talking now about first century, second century, where Rome was actually ruling the world. The rabbis had to translate these laws into that kind of monetary society. And so consequently, what they did was to, on the one hand, to try to make sure that the laws of rebit would in fact be observed. And so they were worried about about people trying to get around them a variety of different ways, but at the same time, they themselves had to make it possible for people to engage in business. The way that they did that was by, on the one hand, strengthening the laws of rebit in a variety of ways, and on the other hand, making room for businesses to happen. So on the one side, when they were strengthening the laws, they tried to make sure that certain subterfuges that people were trying in order to get around the laws wouldn't work. And they even expanded it not from the monetary area to the area of interpersonal interactions, where they say, for example, that you may, of course, compliment a person for something that person did well, but you may not compliment a person if your only intention is to try to get something from the person. That also is seen as giving interest, as it were, in this kind of interpersonal reaction with the other person. So on the one hand, they were trying to strengthen those laws, but on the other hand, they were trying to make business possible. And the way that they did that was by making room for loans and making room for businesses. In particular, the way they did it was through the idea of partnerships. That is, that if I give you money, then I cannot insist from you that you give me more money in return just by virtue of the fact that you have that money over a period of time. But if you and I go into business together, into a partnership together, then whatever the partnership earns, it earns, and whatever it loses, and the way in which those earnings or losses are shared would be dependent upon the particular arrangements of the partnership. So, for example, it may be that you and I would go into this partnership on a 50-50 basis, in which each of us would invest the same amount of money, and perhaps each of us would also work in the business. But it might be very different from that. In the extreme, it might be that you do all the work and I invest all the money, or the other way around. And similarly, in terms of the distribution of earnings and losses, that would depend very much upon the particular way in which we had set the partnership up. And that was allowed because it wasn't seen as simply my helping you. It was seen as the two of us helping each other in terms of, in order to be able to earn a living. To this day, as a result of these laws, Jewish communities have Jewish free loan societies in an attempt to try to make sure that people who need several $100s or who need clothing or who need food are able to get that without interest. So that the Jewish community takes this very seriously. And also to this day, if you go into a bank in Israel, for example, that's owned by religious Jews, then you will see a notice in the bank that even if you're just taking out a checking account or an interest-bearing savings account or a certificate of deposit, that you are effectively becoming a partner in the bank for the amount of money that you're investing in the bank. And they do that in order to make sure that everybody understands that this is not supposed to be a violation of the laws of rebate. The interesting thing is that while these laws were in the Torah restricted to Jews, in other words, Jews were not supposed to charge other Jews interest, and the Torah really doesn't say anything about about Jews' relationships to non-Jews. By the time you get to the Mishnah and the Talmud, that's no longer the case, because even though Jews were generally not treated very well by the Romans and later the Christians, and in some cases by the Muslims, in some cases not. It depends upon what time and place you're talking about. Nevertheless, the rabbis say that Jews have to take care of the non-Jewish poor as well as the Jewish poor. And Jews have to help in the healing of non-Jews as well as in the healing of Jews. And for that matter, Jews even have to help with the burial of non-Jews as well as Jews, assuming, of course, that the non-Jews could not take care of it themselves. And so consequently, these laws of partnership and of rebate apply for Jews to non-Jews as well. They didn't originally in the Torah, but they were expanded to that during the time of the Mishnah and the Talmud. And when we're talking about Judaism, we're not talking about Judaism, the religion of the Bible. We're talking of the religion of the Bible as defined, in other words, by the rabbis. In other words, the rabbis determined what books got into the Bible, and then also as interpreted and expanded by the rabbis. So if you're asking what is the Jewish understanding of rebate, then you really have to look at not only the biblical, but the rabbinic understanding of rebate. And for the rabbis, these laws would apply in the relationship of Jews to non-Jews just as much as it applies in the relationship of Jews to Jews. I hope you have a wonderful conference, and I hope that these laws help you as they help us theologically and not just economically, because these laws really are rooted in the understanding of the Jewish tradition about who we are as human beings. That is, we are human beings who are in covenant with each other and in covenant with God, and it's those very deep theological convictions that lead us to the rules in the Jewish tradition, and as I understand it in the Muslim tradition as well, that we have to take care of each other, and that part of taking care of each other as an extended family, as it were, is that we would loan money to each other without interest. In this way, both of our religions are really very different from straight capitalist theory, which would say that we are all individuals and should simply be in it for ourselves. But rather, our traditions, our religious traditions, call us to a much greater sense of concern for the other, and that concern can not just simply be a matter of emotion or of attitude, but that we actually have to live out that concern in a variety of different ways, some of them through the laws of tzedakah, the laws that are in English translates as charity, but as we understand as being justice. It's not just a matter of doing something really wonderful for somebody, something supererogatory that nobody else can really expect of you, but rather that this is something that is expected of you. It's a matter of justice. It's a matter of tzedakah that we take care of each other in this sort of a way. So I hope that your discussions about these laws will help you not only in terms of the economic implications of these laws, but also truthfully to better understand your own religious convictions, as well as which in this case are very much shared by the Jewish tradition. Thank you.